Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unlocked, where we talk about unlocking the potential of you, the people you work with, and the people you do life with. At the time of this recording, I'm offering all of you, yes, my lovely listeners, a free 15-minute communication coaching call. You come with some kind of communication problem, and I give you a solution. My calendar link is in the show notes, so check that out. Pam Cusick is the Senior Vice President of Rare Patient Voice. Rare Patient Voice is pretty cool. And I know because I've had some personal experience in working with them, and I just know Pam, and being able to talk to Pam about this stuff was really cool because I haven't, had the chance to just like pull the information out of her like this before. So it's going to be very educational and fun for me, and I hope it is for you as well. Pam has 30 years of experience in study design, implementation, and analysis. And she has been really involved in public health communication and research. And now what she's doing is she's taken that public health and research component and combining it with patient advocacy. We are all about, they are all about patient voice and getting the patient's voice involved in the development of pharmaceuticals and devices and all types of things that go into, research and researching different products and researching different medications and other types of things that people with rare diseases don't always have access to. I mean, having a voice in the whole process. Now imagine that. A researcher needing to know how to get their product out to the world because it's brilliant, it's fine, it's good, it's what it does, but they don't ask. And that's the problem. And Rare Patient Voice fixes that. Pam has a BA in psychology, an MA in psychology. She's been the past president of the board of directors of Scientific Advisory Council Lead for Horses and Human Research Foundation. And she is going to share some insights about how this whole scenario is a win-win-win for everybody. And that is what I want us all to take away from this. How can we all create win-win-wins for ourselves, for the people that we serve? All right, here we go. Hello, Pam, my friend. How's it going?
So great. Thanks for having me on.
Good. It's so good to have you. This is, we've had many interactions over the past little bit here, and it's about time that we have this type of interaction so that my audience can learn about you and the cool work that y'all do.
Absolutely.
So tell me how you even landed in this spot of where you are right now. Like,
Boy.
what brought you to this point in your journey, and did you guess that this is what you would be doing right now?
No, I did not expect this. So I have been my whole career in doing some sort of research. So communications research, public health research. And some 25 or so years ago, Wes, who started the company, worked at a pharma market research company. And we were working on direct-to-consumer market research. So we did all sorts of interesting work, and he got this idea that, wow, maybe, based on one of the projects that he worked on, maybe there's an opportunity for a patient panel, a patient community to contribute to research. And there really wasn't something like that. So fast forward a number of years to 11 years ago, he started the company. And at the time I kept, we had stayed in touch over the years, and I kept saying, well, when you need somebody, let me know. And eventually he needed me about 7 or so years ago. And I started working with Rare Patient Voice. And honestly, I knew what he did and what we were doing, but I didn't really realize how big it was going to get and how cool it was to do this job.
Yeah, you have not been around too long, and y'all have grown quite a bit. Because you're not just in the States anymore, right?
Right. Yeah. We're in the US and Canada, which we've been in for, the past 11 years. But we also added the UK, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Australia, and New Zealand. And, you know, the interesting thing is giving those patients, we've done this for many years, giving patients a voice in research, and they contribute to all sorts of projects, looking at different products and services coming on the market, testing devices. But now we can add all of the other patients in the other countries and give them those opportunities too, which is very cool.
So why does it matter? Why does the patient's voice matter? I know it's a really dumb question, but I'm going to ask the dumb question because I think it matters.
Yeah, no, not at all. Well, interesting. Yeah, the patient's voice definitely matters, but if you look back a number of years and probably, still in some areas, people would always ask doctors what they thought the patient would want. And oftentimes that's vastly different. So getting the patient's authentic voice, hearing what they need, what they want, if there's a product coming on the market and you want to advertise it to them, you want to you know, share it in a way that is realistic. And how would the patient see that product? How would they, what would make them want to go to their doctor and say, oh, I saw this ad on TV or in in a newspaper, whatever, a magazine, and I really think this would be good for me. What makes them do that? You have to ask them. It's really important for them to be involved. The other thing is, with rare patients in particular, it takes them many times, on average 10 years to get diagnosed. So, if they can share about their journey and say, okay, well, over these 10 years, I was diagnosed with A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then finally in year 10, I was diagnosed with the thing I really have. And they share that with a pharma company, with a market research agency who is doing kind of background work on a patient journey. They may be able to shorten that diagnosis time. Like, people who have this condition are often diagnosed with A, B, C, D, E, F, G first. And then what if that person can get treatment a lot earlier because a patient has been able to share their journey? There's so many ways they can be involved. We had another usability study where our client was trying to develop um, a clothing line, accessible clothing line for people with mobility challenges. So they sent clothing to 25 people or so, and then interviewed them about how they worked, what could be done better, how could it, if you're in a wheelchair and I, have these jeans for you to put on, what makes it easy to do or hard to do, and how can we make that better for you? You can't get that from somebody else. You can guess what they might need, but you really need to talk to the people. You need to talk to the patients. And that's where we come in.
Mind blowing. You mean ask the actual people who are maybe in wheelchairs how they like to get dressed?
I mean, who would have thought, right? But, you
I
know,
know. I know.
lots of smart people in the world developing all kinds of things, whether it's clothing or a medication or some sort of service or something. But because they're very bright and creative and have these great ideas, oftentimes they think, they are assuming that's what would work for someone else. And when it gets down to it and you say, okay, well, here is this app, right? So here's an app that I want, everyone's going to love this. Everyone with this, this condition is going to use this. They're going to put this information in and blah, blah, blah. And then you go to those people who then say, yeah, I'm not going to do that every day. It is illuminating, right? Because these bright minds have come up with something, but you really, really, and it might be a fantastic idea. It just might need to be tweaked a little bit so that it is usable for an individual with X condition. Um, and I think that we have given or found those opportunities for patients. I mean, that's really what my role is, looking for all of those opportunities, looking for any and every client who is developing something that would touch a patient and saying to them, hey, great idea. Love what you're doing. Can we help you can we help you to connect with some patients so they can give their insights? And it's really gratifying because there are things that, you wouldn't think of, like, um, after a clinical study is done, there's summaries that are created, there are journal articles that are written, but a lot of times they're in very scientific writing. Not that patients can't understand that, but a lot of us don't have that kind of knowledge of statistics and all sorts of things. So companies are actually taking the time to work with patients to say, okay, here is the article. Here are all the results. We want to make this patient friendly so that when it goes out there to the public, when it's on Google and I find it, I'm going to be able to look at it and say, hey, this study was done in my disease area, and I think this would work for me. And bring that to your doctor, bring that to your clinic or wherever you're going. That was never done before. Those sorts of things are happening every day. They're all journals that they want patient insights. They want patients to be involved in. We get a lot of requests. Here's an interesting one. We got a request from a company for they were whatever their product was for a rare disease, and they wanted a patient to come to their sales meeting because their sales reps had never seen or met or talked to a person with that disease. And to me, that was so smart because then, the sales reps can go into the doctor's office and say, yes, we talked to a patient with X condition, and this is why they need this type of product or this treatment or whatever it is. And we get lots of requests for things like that to talk at a conference so not just research, but to share their voices in many other ways, which is also fantastic and interesting. Sometimes we're working directly with a pharmaceutical company so they can get insights maybe prior to developing something, or maybe they have something in their pipeline that they're looking at and they want to get patients to provide some insight about that product or about that service. And so they're bringing on patients in an advisory capacity. Other times we're working with market research agencies, as I had mentioned, doing surveys and focus groups and interviews. Sometimes it's an ad agency, sometimes it's a government contractor who is doing work on behalf of the CDC or the FDA or NIH to gather insights for their programs and their public health communications and things like that. So there's so many opportunities, and that's kind of that's one of the things I really love about my job is finding those opportunities so patients can be included. And I mean, at this point, we have over 145,000 patients and caregivers in 1,500 conditions. There's got to be something for them to do, right? And that's what I need to do is find those things.
That's amazing. What I love about your model is it's a win-win-win. Like everybody in the scenario is winning,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty cool. Can you talk about that component of it? I mean, talk about how, rare patient voice wins and then your client wins and then the patient wins. Like how does that whole thing talk about that?
How does it work? So, yeah. So from the patient perspective, they're winning, in several different ways. So we do pay them for their time. They earn $120 an hour for sharing their expertise. So financially, that's a good thing for them. And, in a lot of cases though, they'll come back to us and say, well, I don't, that's not why I'm doing this. I really want to be able to help other people. I want to share my experience, my journey to, with this disease so that other people can perhaps learn from that benefit and, maybe, like I said, shorten the journey to diagnosis. Or maybe if I had this kind of experience, using this device or what it was, it maybe someone doesn't know about that. And so I'm sharing my expertise to help other people. So there's so many ways for them to win. The other win for patients, I think, is, they're not, when you have a medical condition that, you're sharing with your family all the time and they've heard all about it, and you don't really want to maybe worry your family all the time, so you keep a lot of it inside, right? Then they have an opportunity to talk to a moderator, and they get to be in a focus group or just, and doing an interview and talk to this empathetic, knowledgeable person who really is interested in everything they have to say about their experience, about the challenges they face, about what do they do when they get up in the morning and like can't reach up to get a cup off the shelf, or and all those little things that maybe they don't want to tell their family every day. This is a great opportunity for them to be able to do that with a moderator who then can take all of that information, share it back with their client to help make things better. So I think there are a lot of positives for patients participating in research, both kind of altruistic, helping other people, helping them to feel good and feel proud about they're an expert in this thing, not that they chose it, but they know so much about their disease, and being able to share that, and of course then getting compensated for their time, which we feel is really important. So those, definitely for patients, it's a win-win-win there. For clients, it is that learning from the expert, right? So they have lots of brilliant scientists, on their teams, and who know a lot about the physical or the chemical compounds of that drug, as an example. But bringing that human perspective, understanding, what in terms of like clinical trials, as an example, what will a patient bear? What kind of, if we're going to bring, here's an example of, we have a lot of patients who are involved in protocol design. So that's before a clinical trial starts, to see, okay, well, let's say we wanted to bring you into the clinic, 6 times a year. And what would that look like? And having patients say, well, this wouldn't work for me, or it would, and this is why. Those are really important for for a sponsor, someone is running a clinical trial, to know, because one of the biggest problems in clinical research is keeping people enrolled. So many trials are delayed because people, they drop out for one reason or another. Well, if you make it a little more convenient, if you ask the patients, okay, well, if you could come 4 times instead of 6 times, would you stay in the trial? Those are things that could lead to a product coming to market more quickly. I mean, there's so many benefits for a pharma company to get insights, or it could be a device manufacturer, all kinds of organizations could be involved, but to get that patient insight, because it is something that they might not be thinking of, not in a mean way, but that they're looking at, okay, the very practical, we have this drug and this is what we want to do with it, and we want to have, get this kind of information. But in the end of the day, when you talk to a patient, you might find that you need to go down a different path or slightly alter your plan. And so I think that bringing patients into, these discussions, and bringing patients, whether it's about clinical trials or market research, bringing their insights and their thoughts and feelings into those discussions makes it more likely that that things will go well, because it is something designed for the patient, by the patient. And I think that's really helpful for those pharma companies, device manufacturers, whomever it is, because you don't want to create something and spend an exorbitant amount of money on something that people can't use. Like, I mean, think about a device that, if I have to bring it home with me and I can't hold it, I need to hold it with my left hand, but I can't, that's a failure. But if you test it with somebody, you would know. So those are important things. And then for us, I just think there are lots of wins for us. Obviously, it's great when we're able to kind of be a matchmaker and connect those people with opportunities to share their experience and expertise. That's really gratifying. I mean, obviously it's a business where, we are being paid by those companies to do the research. We want to share that money back with the patients. So we have actually paid patients over $13 million in the past 11 years. And that's for participating in all the research that they do. They don't get paid for clinical trials. That's just something that's not allowed. But for all the other work, and that just keeps growing, and it really feels good to be able to give the money to the patients and give the opportunity to the patients, for them to be able to share their, like I said, share their expertise and kind of make things better for those coming after them.
And what's cool about your company too is that the people that work for your company were also involved on on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Learned about you and brought them on board, and they wanted to be involved. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So a lot of the people that work with us started out as patient advocates for us. So by that I mean we have a patient advocacy team that does outreach to all kinds of smaller support and advocacy groups. They're connected with 4,800 referral partners all around the world to help bring patients on board, which is amazing. And thankfully, we had that already set up during COVID. But prior to COVID, and even now, we go to events in person. That's really our main way that we have found patients and connected with them over time. So we'll go to the National Hemophilia Foundation conference or National Sickle Cell Conference. We set up our booth and explain what research is and how people might be involved, which is terrific. And prior to COVID, the year prior, I believe, we went to 350 events in a year. And so some of those things were large, like these national conferences I mentioned, and some were like a diabetes walk or a Crohn's and colitis walk, all over. We had part-timers who would represent us, and we gave all of them a kit, and they would go out to their local area walk or conference, and it was amazing because that's how we really built up this community significantly. And through that, a lot of those people, were interested in still working with us in some capacity. So when we would have an opening, a role that, for a project management position or a sales position or a patient advocacy position, we would go back out to our patient advocates to see if there was somebody who was interested. And so over time, a lot of the people that we have been working with us in that capacity, have come on board. And, a lot of us are caregivers or patients, and so we also have that kind of empathy and understanding, for the patients and the caregivers, because, we have that experience or some part of that experience ourselves. So it's a really interesting, mix, and the way that we have connected with people has been really in that grassroots way to kind of, they worked with us, they liked us, and they wanted to stay with us. We have a great team, and people want to stick around, which is a good thing.
I love that. And you do have a great team. Had the opportunity to work with them, and I've loved the vibe, and they're always so welcoming, and just learning about their stories was pretty powerful in and of itself. How have you gotten here? So your company hasn't been around a super long time, but you've made a huge impact on the community, and spreading globally now, and grown the company from 5 people to when you started to where it is now. And it's like, give me the secret. What's your secret sauce to getting to where you are now? Like, what have you done to get there?
I think it's being good, nice people and doing the right thing. We stand up for our patients. We make sure that they are compensated for their time. We try to find them as many opportunities as we can. And that's all external, right? We're trying to do that for our patients, to make the world a better place for them, for pharma companies or market research companies, to help them to get the information they need. Internally, I think it's really about kind of professional development, caring about the people who work with you and trying to help and cultivate them in ways that help them to grow. In general, because of the way that we have brought people on through our patient advocacy team and um, through those connections, most people didn't have experience in research. They didn't have a background in it. They didn't have a background in patient advocacy or sales or how to manage a project. So, really being thoughtful and aware of that and understanding that, it's something you can learn and helping them to feel comfortable. One of the things that, you know, I love is that when, if you make a mistake, everyone makes mistakes. Wes would always say to people, look, I've made every mistake you could possibly have made, so it's okay. And I think that has been great for people and then leading the teams, as that we do. I think we try to filter that to everybody to understand, look, yes, if something didn't go right or you didn't do something in the way that was supposed to be done, it's okay. It isn't going to be the end of the world. And I think that that's a nice feeling for people, because there are places that we have all worked where you'd be afraid to lose your job, right? If you paid people, an extra $500 by mistake, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But we have a different vibe. We're very, supportive, and we want people to grow. Obviously, we've worked with you several times, which has been fantastic. You've worked with our leadership team. And we try to, and for many years, have tried to do some like professional development quarterly to help people grow and provide those opportunities to them so that they can kind of, continue. We can all do our jobs, right, day to day, but you always want to be growing and learning more. Or I do. I think that's, kind of a thing that I really like. And I enjoy doing things like that, taking, listening to webinars and all of those things. And so we provide those opportunities to everybody. One that we do company wide. So we'll do that quarterly, as I said. And then for, kind of internally, but people's goals, their individual goals include a professional development element. And so we'll have, we have a quite a large list of different courses people can take. And if they have something that's not on that list, they can propose that. And we, in the cases that I know of, we've always supported that. So they're doing something, that we as a company think is important quarterly, but then something that they are also interested in, they're doing themselves over the course of the year to reach their goals. So I think that's really important. And just being, like I said, just being nice and caring and being concerned about the people that you work with and flexible and knowing that what you're doing is a really good thing for the world makes it sort of good people want to do good things, right? So I think,
Right.
it's kind of a nice job that makes people feel good. And so, like I said, people stay with us. And I think we try to do the right thing for our patients, for our clients, and also for, all of the people who work with us. It's important that everyone feels supported. And I think that we do a good job of it. Are we perfect? No. I mean, nobody is perfect, right? But we really, make an effort to do that. And one of the things that we did last year, which I thought was great and a really fantastic growth opportunity, which you were part of too, was we did our first offsite meeting. So, the subset of people in the company who travel a lot and go to different events, we've met each other at different times, but the larger company, everyone's remote. They didn't even know each other except for, being on like this. So being in person was amazing. People loved it. They wished they had been there longer and had a great time and learned things along the way too, but more importantly, learned who their colleagues were in a more personal atmosphere, and that was really cool. So eventually we'll do that again. It's we did a virtual meeting this year, but I think that that was really valuable and people loved it. So I mean, I think it's just a combination. You said, how did we get here? Right? That was your question. And I think it's a combination of doing good, doing good in the job is a doing good type of thing, but also making sure that you're doing the right thing for your employees, for the people who work with you, for your clients. All of those things you have to be thinking about all of them at once, because once you
Mm.
forget about one, it all falls apart. It's like a three-legged stool, right? You have to care about all of it.
Yeah. And I love this whole idea of like, do what's good, do what's right. And doing that, you've been able to grow the company where you are. You've been able to find the right people. You've been able to nurture those people. They've been wanting to stay with you, and it takes a bit of patience when you're working with people that don't have experience in research or sales or patient advocacy. Like you're having to. It's not like they come out of college with some of these. Sometimes they do, right? But most of the time they're not. But you're finding the people with the passion,
Mhm.
because they have been boots on the ground for you at times, and they're already advocates for the conditions that they might be living with, or maybe they know somebody who's a friend or family member that has that condition. So that's really cool, and I think that a lot of companies can gather some insights from that. Be kind and do
Mhm.
what's right. I mean, you know, seems pretty basic, but how many of us don't do what's right? How many of us aren't nice when we're doing
Mhm.
it? And for whatever reason that is. And I think that that's powerful. And I can attest to this. Having the leadership team that you do that is so people focused, I think is incredible. Wes is so approachable. He is a likable person. He's funny and he's great to be around. You have great energy. You are so for people and wanting to be that connection. Just thank you for being who y'all are. I think that's fantastic. If so,
Thank
we
you.
have the patient side. We have also more the client side, whether that's, marketing firms or any other agencies that are needing patients. And then they have you.
Mhm.
How do people get in touch with you if they are a patient? How do they get in touch with you if they need patients? Like, do they go to the same place? How do you arrange that?
So on our website, there are actually kind of two different branches. There's the patient for patients and then for researchers. So when patients want to sign up, if they don't meet us at an event or through one of our referral partners, they can go online and sign up there and, add their information. And then we go through and add them to our community. And when we have a relevant study, we'll invite them to that study. So that's how they can get involved with us. Then from the researcher side, we do publish all of our the number of patients we have in each condition in each country online, so they can look there and see if some of the information is there. But if it's not, they're welcome to email us. They can email me, they can email Tiffany, just to our sales team actually is we have a sales email now that people can write to us and say, "Oh, do you have these patients in this area?" Because we're doing focus groups, and we'll quick send back a proposal and information for them.
Okay. Fantastic. And if they want to just hang out with you, Pam, because you are awesome to hang out with, where do they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, or they can email me, pam.cusick@rarepatientvoice.com.
Fantastic. Y'all are doing some great work. I'm so glad that I know you, and I've got to know what you do through our LinkedIn, communication, and just getting to know your company and your people better. And my eyes have been opened. I mean, it's so cool, the impact that you're having, and the voice you're giving to the patients, and the access to these patients that you're giving to the researchers. So what you're doing is truly a win-win-win, and awesome. That's so awesome. So continue to do the good work you're doing.
Thank you. I certainly will. And thanks for the opportunity. Happy to share with your listeners.
There are some really cool things from that interview that, I think that the work they do is impactful. The work that they do is going to serve us all in some way, shape, or form. And that is cool. Globally and locally, and all the things that we can gain from the work that they're doing. I love this idea of the win-win-win. And I said that earlier as well. The win-win-win here is this idea of them giving the voice to the patient, okay? Giving them the opportunity, the connection to the researcher getting access to the voice of the patient, but the patient also being able to talk about their situation, building community around their situation, and also understanding that they are too having an impact on the future of the people that are going to also have these rare diseases or rare conditions. How can they impact the future of humanity in that way? That's cool. And then the researchers, it's beneficial for them. I mean, wasting time, wasting money doesn't help companies thrive, doesn't help companies succeed. And if they can get true insights, they will be able to develop something that can truly be used and that is truly effective. That is awesome. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to Pam about this. I'm grateful for her and her heart, and Wes for building this thing, and for the team over at Rare Patient Voice for, number one, trusting me to come in and work with them, but number two, doing the work that they do and stepping into a place that maybe some of them aren't familiar with, but are willing to learn, willing to develop. And for Rare Patient Voice, investing in the professional development of their people that will go on, not just for here, but for the future of their lives as well. So thank you, Pam. Thank you, Rare Patient Voice, for being who you are. If you want to find out more information about me or check out the show notes where there's going to be more information and links to the things referenced in this episode, visit skotwaldron.com. And lastly, I'm asking for a little bit of love, just a little bit. So please take a moment, follow, rate the show. The algorithms like that. It helps me get the word out. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And until next time, stay unlocked.